Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dokkan Battle video, and today we're going to do some team builds for the Cooler team. So this is the new STR LR Cooler that just came out during Worldwide. And so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at maybe two or three like actual team builds, and then I'm just going to show you a bunch of other units that are viable for his team, and you kind of can pick your favorites based on what you like. The general rule with team building is this: you try to pick out two main rotations of units, and then pick out either floating support units or just good floating units that can just be there to help the team in whatever way, whether it's just through having good defense or being another offensive character or whatever. The thing with this team, unlike the Goku team, so like I think most people would agree Goku's the better character, but I would say Cooler's teams are a little bit better than Goku's. Like there's a lot more flexibility in Cooler's team building, and his team's going to get way more support in the future, whereas Goku's team isn't going to get buffed nearly as often. So I think there's a lot of fun team building options with Cooler, which is one of the reasons I really wanted to get him, because I was really excited to have just a really solid team for a lot of these really good extreme units. So in case you guys aren't aware of what his leader skill is, so basically we can run any Terrifying Conquerors or Movie Boss characters on here, and then if they're transformation boost, they're getting a full 200% leader skill, which there's a lot of really good units that fit, you know, transformation boost plus one of the other two characters, so our categories. So let's go ahead and hop in. So this first team build, I think this, or like some slight variation of this, is probably my favorite team build. So the way I like building teams traditionally is to have two main attacking rotations with floating supports. Now, one thing to keep in mind, the disclaimer I'll say in front of these videos, is that there isn't one best team that's good for every single event in the game. You are constantly changing your teams to fit difficult content, right? So that's why this Cooler team is so nice, because in this video I'm just going to show you and highlight a bunch of really good units you can use on the team, and then based on the situation in the event, you can feel free to, you know, make changes. But this would be like my general, like, I just want to run this team for fun type of team build that can get through most content in the game, right? So the idea here is we feature Cooler on rotation, and he links really well with a lot of the characters on his team. So I think AGL Full Power Frieza is going to be a staple on most people's team builds. He's still really, really good. He stacks defense, hits ridiculously hard, gets guaranteed additionals if he gets hit first. Like, this guy's crazy. So those two linked up as a rotation, I think, will be a very common thing that you'll see a lot of people do. And then I would do another rotation maybe with this STR Full Power Frieza and a Cooler. Now, that's banking on this EZA being pretty good. Now, we saw the EZA info last night during the Dokkan Now, and most of us were not very impressed with it. But I did play around with this guy pre-EZA, and he's actually hitting kind of hard. So I'm almost wondering if this guy's just going to be like a ridiculous offensive powerhouse after his EZA. So this guy definitely could be changed out, and trust me, I'll talk about a lot of other really good on-rotation units you can put in that spot. But for now, I'm going to give this guy a fair shot with his EZA and see how well he's running. And I just rainbowed him, so why not? I've got him rainbowed full level 10 links. We'll give him a shot. But the idea is you're just running two big fat rotations featuring that LR Cooler with another Frieza or Wicked Bloodline unit that he links really well with, okay? Now, the other thing I should mention before I get too deep into this, I am recording this like literally right after the units dropped. So there definitely are going to be more EZAs and things coming in part 2 that will be buffs to this team. So if those units aren't mentioned here, it doesn't mean that I'm dumb and I don't realize they're good. It's just they're not out yet. I don't know what they are, right? So just use your best knowledge. Obviously, whatever comes in part 2, they're probably going to be really good, and you can slot them onto these teams, right? So that would be my two main rotations, right? So Cooler with a Full Power Frieza basically on each rotation. And then I've got floating supports. Now, what I love about Cooler's team is it is flooded, literally flooded with tons of support units to choose from. So many, right? So here I think AGL Turles is one of the best support units in the game. I try to use him on any team I can because he's so good with his EZA. I still think Garlic Jr. is a really good Extreme Team EZA unit, so I'm going to run him as a support here. And then I want to throw this guy out because I think people are going to forget about this guy. So this guy EZA'd when they did the fusions the last time. And this Cooliza here can actually hit pretty hard. He's on Transformation Boost, so he is getting a 200% team here. And he is a support of attack and defense 30%. Now, he's not giving key, but he's attack and defense 30% for Wicked Bloodline or Fusion. So basically he's going to be supporting my main rotations because they're all Wicked Bloodline, right? Now, if you don't like the fact that he doesn't give ki, that's fine. You don't have to run him. There are like a bajillion other supports you can run, which I'll show you. But this, for me personally, I'm going to kind of try this as my main team build. Now, here's another team build. This is just showing you ways you could feature other units, right? Now, this guy right now is still kind of decent, but like if this dude EZAs, he's going to be like your must run on this team, I think. What I love about this guy is he's a support unit, so you could float him if you want to, or you can run him on rotation and he links like almost perfectly with cooler units. So he's going to be really good, and then when he transforms, he hits like a truck. So I still like this guy. So that could be a rotation, and then I'm still a fan of this transforming EZA Frieza. Like, I still really like him, and he stacks defense. Like, yeah, he's definitely fallen off a bit, but dude, he can still hit hard, and he stacks defense. So I actually like that Frieza. So he links well enough with Cooler, so that could be a rotation there. You could also do a rotation, or you could float, but like, there are a couple of really nice Janemba units, right? So like, Super Janemba, I think if you're running difficult content and you really need somebody that can help you tank, I think Super Janemba is definitely a unit you could run. You could run him on rotation with like Baby Janemba, and they're going to link up pretty decently together. Otherwise, you could float both of them as just like floating slot 3 like defensive options, because Baby Janemba is going to dodge a lot. He's got a little bit of attack in his tank too. He's a pretty decent little unit. And then once again, you could just put another floating support here. Now, I wanted to make sure I shout out this guy, because this tech free-to-play Cooler, he has Awakened, and we can tell he's a support unit and he stacks defense, but he's got an EZA coming. So when this guy's EZA comes, I think he could be actually one of the more viable support units, and he's going to be getting the full 200% leader skill. So keep an eye out on this guy as one of the floating options. So when you're looking at this, I'm not saying like this here in particular has to be the team build, but I kind of like to use this as my main skeleton, and then you slot in units that you want to. So let's say you don't like that full power Frieza, the STR one, then maybe you slot in this STR Cooler if he gets an EZA, or you slot in this guy, maybe you like this guy better, right? Just somebody that can link with your LR Cooler. On the support side, yeah, maybe you don't like that this guy's not giving ki, so then you go ahead and try this guy with his EZA. He's probably going to be really good, right? So just kind of take what I'm telling you here and kind of be creative with your own team building, but it's just understanding who links together and then what do you want kind of floating around, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through a few pages here. I think I've got like 3 pages of units to show you that are just good units that could be on the team, right? So first up, we've got this physical EZA Cooler, and we've got this tech final form Cooler that is getting an EZA, and is probably going to be pretty good as well. Now, I think if they make this tech Cooler a support unit, I think he's going to be a really good support option. Physical Cooler is going to be a little bit harder to use, and so the bad part about these other final form Coolers is they share the same name as the LR Cooler, right? And so they're pretty much automatically relegated to floating units. Like, you can't run them on rotation, because there's no way you'd rather run this guy over the LR Cooler. There's no way, no matter how good they make this guy, there's no way you're going to want to run him over the LR STR Cooler. So I'm really hoping they give this guy some type of support or utility, so that he's going to be like a good floating unit that you can use. So just keep those 2 final form Coolers as ideas for floating units, right? Because this guy's still very powerful. The problem is he's like one of those build-up units. He's kind of built very much like this LR Cooler, where he gets a lot of built-in additionals and he wants to attack a lot to build up his passive, but as a floating unit, he's going to build up a lot more slowly. So unfortunately, I think LR Cooler may have killed this guy, but he's definitely somebody you could toss on the team if you want to try him out. More floating support options, right? So LR Turles could be a floating support option, or if you really like the Turles rotation, you can run him on rotation with AGL Turles. Now, these guys are not transformation boost, so they're only getting 170. So I like the Turleses here just mainly as floaters, but you could have STR and AGL Turles on the team and just float both of them, because this guy is a Terrifying Conqueror support, right? So he's good. And he's got LR stats, so he's going to be a little bit more viable maybe defensively in that slot 3 than some of these other support units. Broly, Chiai, and Lemo, I don't see myself using them a lot, but this is a movie boss team that technically I do consider them like a floating support. It's really going to depend on what the ki is doing for you, because they have a nuking passive and they get different support passives based on what ki they grab, what color, and how much they grab. So I think Broly, Chilai, and Lemo, they're really going to operate better when, like, the standalone Chilai comes out on Global. But for now, if you want to try them as a floating, interesting support unit, you could. And then this guy here, I've seen some people running this guy, but I don't like this guy as much on the Cooler team because he is a sworn enemy support, and Coolers are not on sworn enemies, so he's really only supporting the Friezas. So I know a lot of people like to run this guy on rotation with STR full power, or with AGL full power Frieza. Now I suppose you could run him with STR full power Frieza as well, because they link really well, and you're getting the ridiculous sworn enemy support. And this guy offensively can get really crazy, like 4 or 5 million attack stats for a support unit's pretty good, but defensively he's not as good anymore. So I kind of don't see myself actually using this guy as much here because you'd want to use him, I think, more often as a floating support. And since he's not supporting the Coolers, he's not as useful. He would still, like, if you put him on, say, this first team build, you could float him, right? Like, maybe you put him in this slot here and you float him here. He's going to support the full power Friezas very well. And if he's in slot 3 and then the full power Friezas are in slot 2, like, that definitely can work. So he is usable there. I just not sure myself. I'd rather use supports that are going to support the Coolers than supporting the full power Friezas. But this guy's definitely a good unit. You could definitely try him out. And then I have to throw in this Int Broly. Now, Int Broly is not going to link very well at all with the Coolers, right? So this is the type of unit you throw in, like, specifically just if you're trying to do, like, a red zone fight or, like, Cell Max, where, like, you know you've got, like, a big tech enemy. He's got damage reduction. He stacks defense. The thing with this Broly, it's going to make the team wonky because you kind of got to feature this guy and keep him on rotation. Now, you could throw another Broly on the team to link with him, but I feel like at that point, then you're bringing the team down too much. So I think the only time I'm using this Broly on Cooler's team specifically is if I really need his damage reduction and his type advantage on a certain red zone boss, and I want to put him on rotation and stack him. Then what's going to happen is I'm going to be floating one of my LR Coolers, right? But he is somebody you could run on the team. I'm trying to remember, is Broly Transformation Boost? He's not, so he's only getting the 170 as well, so keep that in mind. Now, we got to talk about the Ginyu Squad, right? Now, I personally don't see myself using the Ginyu Squad a lot on Cooler's team, just because if I want to run Ginyu, I'm just going to run the flat-out Ginyu team with Ginyu as the leader, because that's how they operate the best. But there are pieces of this team that if you wanted to try on the Cooler Squad could potentially work, right? So, one combo you could do is this physical Ginyu does support all extreme class allies no matter what. He does get a little bit shafted though because his passive builds up with having more Ginyu Force. You could still run this guy as a 1-up just for the flat support, but I feel like there are other support units that you would run as a 1-up over this guy. But if you say wanted to run this guy and then maybe Rikumen Goldo as a package, just have a Ginyu and a Rikumen Goldo, you could do that. You could run, you know, a Rikumen Goldo in just an AGL Ginyu package, because that is quite powerful. Like, that could be a rotation, and then you'd just be floating another Cooler, right? I think Jace is always a unit you could shut out, is just another generic floating support. He doesn't need Ginyu to be, like, other Ginyu Force units to do what you want him to do. Like, he is still going to be a support unit for your extreme class allies, and he's going to have Scouter, even if there's not another Ginyu on the team. So, like, this guy is a support unit just with the Scouter built in. It's actually kind of nice. Defensively, though, he could get you killed, but a lot of support units could do that. These guys you could throw in just if you want them as a dodging option, but they're really meant to support the Ginyu team. So, once again, unless you're running the full Ginyu squad, I probably wouldn't run this guy as much. This guy, too, he doesn't have his EZA yet on Global, but this is another, like, support unit you could use once he gets his EZA on Global. So, I think there are bits and pieces of that Ginyu team you could throw in. But once again, if you're going to go all in Ginyu, then just run Ginyu as your lead, right? But there could be some players out there that maybe have Rikumen Goldo, and then, like, this guy's free to play, and you might not have the AGL Ginyu. So this might actually be your best team to try some of that stuff out. So definitely give it a shot if you want to. Alright, and I think this is going to be my last page. There's just so many units to talk about here, guys, right? Oh, you know what? I already did have Broly, Chilai, and Lemo, so I guess they could pop out. Oh, actually, here, let's change this really quick, because I know exactly what I want to put here that I want to talk about there. We'll do that. Okay. Oh, I didn't even switch the team. Hold on. Right here. Let's go one more time, and then actually click confirm. Alright, so a couple more units to shout out here. This Int Toa is a really like generic support unit you can use on a lot of teams. She actually has a heal in her kit. She has aged a bit, but I would keep your eye on this Toa, because I think she might be due for an EZA during Heroes this year. And that being the case, she could be like a real staple on a lot of these extreme teams. Like I said, there's just so many good support units that you can run on this cooler team that I love it. So keep your eye out on that Toa. You can definitely try running her. I think keep your eye out too on metal coolers. I think there's a very ridiculously good chance. I think it was even maybe confirmed during the JP Dokkan now that like metal cooler is going to be the theme for part 2. So like this guy already has the EZA on JP. They're okay. Like they're pretty decent. They'll get their easy on global. If you like them, you definitely could try them on the cooler team. This guy, I think, has a very high chance of EZAing in part 2. If this guy EZAs, I would watch out, because I think this guy could be really, really good. This guy also might become a Wicked Bloodline full 180 lead, which could also be interesting, but it's really irrelevant when you got this STR cooler, because he's basically going to have all of the Wicked Bloodline units, and he's going to be 200% for most of them, right? But keep your eye out on that guy, because he could link really well. And then we also have to shout out Golden Friezas, right? So these Golden Friezas, pretty much where you're using these are like red zone units. So if you're doing red zone or really hard content, and you just want like a floating unit that can tank, that's what these Friezas are for. They really don't do damage, but they're going to link okay. I believe they are also on Transformation Boost. Let me double check that. Yes, they are. So they get the 200% leader skill, which will help them out a little bit defensively. So the Golden Friezas, you always want those in your back pocket for red zone and hard content. I think this guy's a decent unit too. I believe it's specifically against Goku family. Yeah. So against Goku family, this guy's got 50% damage reduction, and he stacks defense. And I believe he supports a little bit too, does he not? Yeah, 2 key and attack and defense 20%. So against a Goku family unit, this Frieza actually is a viable on rotation or floating unit, because he's got 50% damage reduction and he stacks defense. Keep your eye out. If you don't have this guy, he is farmable. He is a free-to-play unit. He's very, very good. If you're someone that just got cooler and you're like a brand new player and you're struggling to fill out his team, like this guy you could slot in on his team, because there's tons of Gokus in the game. Now, if you're not facing a Goku, I wouldn't put this guy on the team. But against the Goku, he's very good in actually difficult content. So anyways, guys, there you go. A ton of units to talk about there. But once again, I would say just use like something like this as your template, where you've got your 2 main rotations and then maybe 3 floating units. And then you plug and play with all the units I talked about. Plug and play, try out your favorite combos. The key thing is really in team building that your main rotations link well together, and that your floating units have a purpose, whether it's support or whether it's they can tank or whatever they can do. You don't just want to like throw random units on the team and squish them together, right? You want to kind of think about how they're going to link and work well together. So anyways, guys, hope this guide helps you all out. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.